for the live button to go blue. There it is. Go live. And now it says we are live. Well, we should be live.
Are we live?
Yep.
Let me see.
Hopefully
Okay.
all
See
technical
if I can have
problems.
some the other. Okay. So what are we going to talk about?
Well, let's not mislead anyone with the title.
Yeah.
So the title is,
We
do you really need a college degree to learn game dev? Which can be a little controversial, but most of the stuff we will talk about is from experience. Um, Depending on where you are and on your background, this could change heavily. So yeah, let's get into it. While you work on ZBrush.
yeah. So um hi Risa. So why I want to touch this topic is because although I feel it's being talk a lot, there's still some doubts, especially for some newcomers. Different answers for different times. I guess we want to touch about the degree thing because it can be important to know. It can save you a lot of trouble and a lot of a lot of money, a lot of time, especially depending where you live. It may be more important or not. So we want to touch about that topic and let us know what you think about should you have a degree or not to learn game development, and if you do, what kind of university, what kind of institution you would like to go. I always mention GNOME workshop. I think it's great. The GNOME School of Visual Effects. See if I can. So let's see. Yeah, very nice. LA. If you live in LA, you're a privileged man. This is a really nice school. It's basically by the philosophy of teaching things that you will actually use at work. So it has a bachelor degree and everything, and it's great. And I think it was my dream school to go. I think I almost go there like one summer to go to a boot camp. Really amazing. It is Alex Alvarez. This is the owner and the founder of the school. So the founder is actually a 3D graphics that work in the film industry, perhaps game industry. So he knows what to give to the students. He knows what they need, and he's constantly changing the way they teach. And all the teachers that teach here, then they have the experience working in game development or in films, relevant experience, right? So that they can teach you some workflows. And it's amazing. It's an amazing source of information. However, you can imagine the cost. go to admissions here. And if my memory doesn't fail me, it was like for a summer course, which is not really the bachelor's degree, but it's a nice experience, like 10, 12 weeks, I believe. Don't remember much. It was like around from 1,000 to um, 1,000 to $2,000, maybe a little bit less depending on the course. That's a lot, adding the cost of living and traveling. If you are not from the US, can you afford this kind of place? That's the question. Um, but it's great. I mean, also the contacts, the people who work there can easily get a job in the industry if you show that you have the skills. Uh, Another big step is to know someone in the industry who can actually give you a job. So otherwise, it's really, really, really hard to make the recruiters to find you and actually give you an offer. So I think this school is great.
Yep.
Before going through this neat question, Rita doesn't have a degree in development. He's an electronic engineer. Kind of the same here. I have a degree in software engineer, and Ram has a degree in computer science. Not really game careers. Those are the most tricky ones to join. But again, there are some exceptions. This one is one of those. I know. Ask, how much time do you think it will take me to create a game like PUBG when I have a very strong C++ knowledge? Okay. I can leave that answer to you, I guess, and I
Well,
can add on top.
well, I was asking if it really depends the how much of a game development experience you have, because if it's your first project, you will find that there are a lot of details coming from the maybe software developer side. It can be really easy to think that you have all these processes, all these, I don't know, frameworks or ways to work when creating a software, but it's really not the same, because making a game, it's a multidisciplinary kind of project. So it's really hard to put timelines on creative stuff. How can you consider something done? It really depends on maybe the look you're going for, or the feeling you're going for, or not even in only the art stuff. Maybe you can program, I don't know, multiplayer match. You can just check it off if if all the players can connect to the battle arena, or the to the match. But if you're making a mechanic, I don't know, like a shooting mechanic, just because your gun shoots bullet doesn't mean it's done, because if it doesn't feel good, then you need to still add more stuff to it, like maybe, I don't know, camera shake, maybe add some animations, and it's stuff that you can consider it done, but it's still not done until it feels it feels good. And that's the part that it's really tricky to put like a tick on it, like it's done and we can finally move forward. And that's stuff that you find uh, a lot in in people that start making games. It's really hard to move forward, like you don't really have a good grasp on when something is acceptable. Maybe it doesn't need to be done for the project to continue, because uh, it's a highly iterative process, and it's more iterations if you need to work with artists, if you need to work with um, game designers. Like, they there will be a lot of changes, and that could put like a big strain on your planning, right? Because you may have planned like, it's a small game, maybe 6 months, but if it isn't fun, like, you can't sell it because even though it's working, it's not fun and people won't play it. And the fun factor is like something really tricky to have, and that is why prototypes are created. Like, you need to be sure that the thing you're making is really fun, and that's something you need to to keep in mind, like, at the beginning of development, because you don't want to create assets that won't get used. It's just wasted work, wasted money. So even though you could have like a very strong C++ knowledge, uh, I mean, recreating a game like PUBG, it's like a really big game. You need a lot of assets. You need a lot of optimizations if you're gonna do a battle royale with 100 plus people. And also really depends on the type of team you're working with. Like, uh, or if you're trying to do a one-man army type of project, now that can get also really tricky, because you can't expect to be good, well, the same amount of good in all areas, right? So maybe you're good at programming, but with the models you will need help. You can buy assets, but then you would need a larger budget, uh, unless you are reusing assets, maybe some free from the marketplace, or mega scans. But now you need to create a framework and infrastructure that can support like a lot of players. So I mean, PUBG is like a really really big example, and if it's uh, you could have like the best knowledge in C++, you can be a fast learner, but there are some places you can cut corners, uh, and get into feel right. It's not a question about technical knowledge. It's more about testing, more about um, showing your game to people that can give you good feedback and can help speed up the development. Because if you're working on something like for too long, you kind of get blinded, and it's really hard to know, to, oh, this wasn't, I thought it was feeling great, but then when maybe you submit it to some place and you see someone else playing it, like, they don't understand maybe the path. And we have covered that topic, like, if you don't make your objectives clear, then it's easier for the player to get lost. Then or maybe a mechanic is too confusing, or it's too hard. It's usually easy to to don't take in account like the players and just develop a game for you, which is great, because that's why we're making game, right? We're making games because uh, it's something that we like, and if we're gonna make a game, it sure as hell be something that uh, the person that is making it should really enjoy, because it will show, right? It will show in the final product. But you need to take in account that if you want to sell it, then you need to do a lot of trade-offs. Like, maybe you can simplify a mechanic because it's not clear enough, and And yeah, depending on your situation, if it's like an indie developer or maybe just a learning example, then yeah, you could probably get like a PUBG up and running with cubes, but that's like not a that's not a recreation, so that's why I went really in depth with the question. But so yeah, I don't know if you want to add something else, or or we can go back to the
Mm.
topic at hand.
Um, I think just like you say, I mean, making games is so much different from making regular software. I get the idea that like you can program and then you can test your ideas easier. In a way, it's an advantage that you already know how to program. But making games is more uh, it's more complex. It has more uh, how to say it. It has a little bit of abstract concepts compared to regular software development, where you can follow some design rules and you can, you know, uh, software. It's more about like it works or not. Of course, there is some user experience behind it, but in games, it's all about emotion and everything. And even if your game is 100% code right, you still may not have the game because that code is just one part of the equation. So um, it's really just a small part. Well, it's not a small part, but it's it's not everything you need to create a game. Even if we are the programmer, you still need some concept of game design, and also, like you said, the testing takes a lot of time. But how long it will take you, it will greatly depend on the experience of you making games rather than the experience on programming knowledge. Uh, if you have made games before, then it will be faster. If you don't, it will take some time. But I mean, it's just like anything else. You learn something new, it takes some time to learn. That's why it's fun.
Great. Rizzo said, only thinking about join is enough. It requires time and money. He's referring to joining a college or a university or maybe an institute. And also, he said, well, they say, I got one question. How to grade dresses of the player so he can change the dress.
I think there are several ways to do it. Um, for example, this is our where is the gear? Um, this one is our gear with some costumes, and of course, we're not gonna use this costume to make the character. So what we are making now is, oops, where is my character? Oh, there you go. What we're making now is basically design the clothes so that we have a different custom for the player. So how to change the dresses is basically different skeletal meshes, right? For if you want a costume or something. I think you have more experience with the modular knight. Remember, we saw it in the marketplace or modular knight, which
Oh, yeah.
uh,
Yeah. if you want to change them in real time, um, there are a lot of things you have to take in account, because if you just put them on top, some animations, if the skinning is not done like uh, perfect, then the meshes will definitely overlap. So you can get around that if the clothes like cover maybe all the clothes cover the chest, so there doesn't need to be a skin mesh under the under there, or you just can't copy and paste a lot of skinning weights, so you don't get that overlap issue. And in the case of animations, yeah, it's easier, or at least in that case of the modular knights, where you have a lot of skeletons, excuse me, a lot of armor, then it was easier for us to just divide the knight in like the legs, torso, hands, and just swap around the pieces. They all were skeletal meshes, and there is a node for all the skeletal meshes to follow like one specific skeletal mesh. So that's the one that drives the animation, and from that, then all your skeletal meshes are in sync. Otherwise, then you have a lot of problems with um, parts of the body that are getting the action maybe too early or too late. So that's how you can handle it in Unreal.
Yeah, it requires a lot of effort to create one character, especially when you want to create modular pieces. So you really need to think about if you're gonna use different costumes. Um, like even if it's like you really need to think very smartly how you're gonna do it. For example, if you're making like this character here, are you maybe some of these parts can be part of another mesh, so you don't need to redo everything. Um, I don't know, maybe this part, maybe the shoulder pads, although that's part of the mesh, but it will change the silhouette and it will look different. Or maybe these accessories are a nice way to, uh, nice and cheap way to uh, actually just change the part so that when you change it, you actually, so the technique is model the entire model complete, um, and then remove some parts as you as you progress, instead of uh, doing it once, because you need to allocate the UV space and everything. So you can actually bake all these meshes into one UV texture space and remove some of them if you're not using them. Or you can have separate UV sets. But the fastest way is to remove or add clauses as you create the meshes.
Nice. So
And
we can
I
go.
was just gonna say that
Yeah.
this is a kind of fate fate process. It always looks like this when you start. It has like no hope, no nothing. This is the kind of phase in game development where you think twice if you're doing the right thing for your life.
Yeah. at the start everything is gray, blocky, and nothing works right. Even in the code side, everything we're testing, and there are a lot of people that can get like really discouraged by it, but there will be a part where there is a jump in quality, like a huge leap,
It's
and
just this small little thing that changed everything.
yeah, but that's the magic of game development. But returning to the topic, how can you learn this, right? Uh,
Mm.
let's try to structure it like this. We can, whenever you try to make a decision, it's good to have the positive side and the negative side. So um, I believe if we start with the negative, we won't get to the positive because that's like our experience. Like it was not too useful for us, and uh, I believe you even more have a more negative experience because you're still paying for it. And
Yeah.
so let's try to stay positive at first, and then we can go to why you shouldn't or why you should. So
Mm.
brainstorm why you should go to the to any college or any institute.
Mm. I think there is no black or white answer. Like if I say you can make contacts, like the amount of contacts you can make in a good university compared to a bad university is tremendous.
Yeah,
Um, I mean, depends where you are. Uh, yeah, technically you can meet people everywhere, but like if you are, for example, in LA or a place where game development has a very huge presence in the industry, most likely you will find peers, even your workmates will um, they may work in a company that you want to work for. Like for example, I have a friend from Singapore, and he got his job at Ubisoft because while he was studying, um, he met a guy, and basically, uh, really, they were not really friends or very close, but they just know each other from. I mean, they know they exist, but they are not really friends. So now the question is, why would you give a stranger a job? Well, he told me that this guy remembered that he stayed a long time, very long hours studying in the school, and that was his only recommendation. Actually, he worked at Ubisoft, and he he got recommended by someone who he knew many years ago, and the only thing he said is, yeah, like he really works a lot. When I was studying with him, he really put a lot of hours, and that's enough actually to get a recommendation, because for the recruiters it's easier to have the word of mouth from someone that already works there compared to someone that is a total stranger. It's very risky. So that's that's a good example of how you can meet people in the school. And actually have some contacts that help you to go in the game industry.
Right. Yeah, and that's a really good example because sometimes being known it's enough. Like maybe you're lacking in technical skills, but those can be learned. But I don't know, they kind of whenever you recommend someone, you kind of give confidence to the people hiring, uh, and it really goes a long way, especially trying to enter in the industry because probably you can also get mentors. You can pay mentorships, and those mentors can give recommendations. So um, even though, for example, in our case, studying in Latin America, you won't probably find like a good work contact. So at least if you're already there, so we are not trying to encourage someone to just leave college or something like that. Like no, if you're already there, then at least you can find like-minded people where you can share your interests, you can push forward, and and because there will be a lot of ups and downs, and if you have someone that uh, is still like pursuing, I don't know, a game development passion or dream, then it can help you a lot. Like seeing the drive of someone else, it's really infectious. At the same time, if you are not studying like something that you think will be helpful, you will see a lot of people that are in that exact same situations, and uh, being around them, they will infect you with that negativity and with that attitude of uh, just uh, being there because you are paying for it, and can put you in a really tough situation. It will make you stop trying to be better or trying to go the extra mile. And if you're not learning by yourself, if you're just relying on your college education, then you're kind of in big trouble because um, and we can talk more about it later whenever we're talking about the why you shouldn't, or why we think that we shouldn't, because this is all just based on experience. But uh, most of the college education, you will have like a learning curriculum. You will have all the courses like very neatly described, and I don't know, if you're pursuing programming, you will learn the basics, the fundamentals. Then you will go maybe algorithms, data structures. Then you can go and learn like more specific technologies, maybe mobile development, maybe some networking. But all that structure, it was not it was, well, probably it was not created that year. It probably is something that worked last year and it's being dragged on, and you don't really even know if how current is that knowledge. So you need to keep in mind that you always, even if you are not going to college, or if you are already in college, you really need to keep a, a self-study mentality. It will help you along your career, whichever career you're pursuing. It doesn't really have to be game development. That's just uh, a good tip to have. But yeah,
Yeah.
how, how does that adapt to to the current situation where most people can't go to college to meet new people, I don't really know. I'm not, thankfully, I'm not there, but I believe it should be harder, right? To meet new people with the virus around could be really tricky.
Yep. Um, I think just like having a self, we can call it self-discipline, to really study by yourself. It's one of the foundation of any kind of successful career, actually. Um, like I just read Dev Gods is like the answer is no. I mean, college now and the pace is so slow. Most of this stuff I have already learned. College doesn't make you better. It's just give you structure. That's true. I totally agree. And I mean, like you said, it's very hard for college to change to change to change the way they teach. You know, uh, because it's a business. They need to make some profit out of it, and of course, the best way to make a profit is by selling courses so that you can stay there the longer time possible. Uh, the longer you stay, the more profit it is for the university. Even though they will like say that they worry about you and you should not stay here forever, they really don't care. They, they they don't care about you. They only care about the business, the money, and yeah, in a way, they care about you. If you are successful, you can be a good example for their career, which is again around the same topic of money. They want you to be successful so that they can be more successful. Um, so it is tricky. It is it is very tricky to really find a good college. Uh, Honestly, I just feel it's updated. I know we're talking about the good things, but it's like I'm just trying to see the positive side of something that it's just not right today.
Yeah, then we can go to a more open uh, like opinion. You can say whatever now. It was just to have a little structure at the start, so we just don't uh, like say anything we have in mind. It was just so we can think about it at first, and then we can uh, transmit the idea better. But that thing about it just gives a structure. That comment like uh, kind of depends on the type of college. Some it really is important to know where you're enrolling, where you are studying, because sometimes it's just a business and they don't really care too much. They just do the bare minimum to give you that sense of structure. And a lot of people that are have self study a lot, and they have not gone through any type of college education like our BFX artist. Uh, they had a similar experience of most self learners. That is, at the start they don't really know where to start, and even though they have great abilities now, they still like sometimes get really, how could how could I put it, anxious, or like not too confident in themselves because they didn't have that structure there, but uh, it's more like a psychological thing uh, of of like I paid for this, so now I should have like this knowledge like pretty pretty solid. But it's not really like that. I don't believe that uh, being in a formal education like a college gave me that structure that most people talk about. Like, sure, it gave me some fundamentals, but most of the stuff I learned like before going there, because mm, there's also like a bad mentality of I don't need to do anything on my own. If I'm gonna pay for an education, they should give me everything, and they should solve all my problems. But that can't be true. There are a lot of students there. They can't cater specifically to you or to your interests. So it gets really hard to learn exactly what you're trying to learn. And maybe if you don't have like a preference and you don't really know what to do, college can be a good thing because they will expose you to a lot of, of topics, like maybe you're pursuing game design, but there is a like elective course there, for example, for data mining that can be useful. Maybe you like it, maybe you don't. um, it can give you like a good sense of direction of what you like or what you don't like. But you can do that also like by yourself. You can expose yourself to that type of knowledge, and uh, it isn't like a knowledge that you can only get on maybe an institute or a college or a university. It's just that most of people postpone it to, oh, there will be a, I don't know, a course on my second year that will talk about a lot of uh, networking or multiplayer development. So I will just wait. No, that's a bad attitude to have. You can research it like right now. You can see how hard it can get. At first everything is easy because you know about it, and whenever you learn more about something, you will learn that you know nothing about it. So when you ask an expert, oh, you know so much, they will most of the time answer, yeah, but not enough. S-
Yeah.
s- you wanted to say something?
Uh, I'm not sure. I mean, even if you enter college without knowing what to do, I think that's the most dangerous thing you can do. Like entering college without knowing what you exactly want, because you follow the this is what should be done, right? I think that's the most dangerous thing. Um, and even when you know what to do, that's even that's not as bad as not knowing what to do. But when you know what to do, then you realize that you won't learn the exact thing you want to do in college. So it can be very disappointing when you are already self-taught and you go to college and it's like you realize you're not learning anything. I remember there was this course we took about .NET, and I think it was my first course I see on programming online. All the courses so far, like it's been university, and I learned so much about it. I mean, even it totally blew my expectations about what kind of online course can offer you. Like after that, even for programming, which I didn't had any hope on that, uh, it really blew my mind to see this kind of amount of information someone can teach you uh, in a way that, because online courses are designed, sure, they are designed to sell, but they won't sell if it's not good, right? In the university, it's like a black box, right? You don't know what's inside until you pay, right? And most of these online courses have a lot of good refund policies, and even if they don't, they're very cheap. So, and they really rely on the outcome, unlike universities. Like online courses, if they are bad, they won't have students. And that's a big difference. So I was shocked when I took that course. It was really game changer, because I took courses for 3D. I took courses mostly for learning 3D and mostly game development stuff related to modeling and texturing and this kind of stuff. And I thought that, yeah, online education can adapt best to this kind of situation, but I don't know if programming, a subject so important such as programming, can be taught in the internet just by anyone, right? There are literally no credentials. And I was amazed by the outcome. And when we took the course, like, we were already so advanced. Like, we were like, well, what is this? Like 16 weeks to learn something that we learned super fast when we took the online course.
Yeah, and that happened to be like a great point, like because a class is like maybe 30 people, 30 to 40 at this here. That's like a good amount of people with that everyone have their own pace. So I don't know if you remember one of our classmates that used to ask a lot of questions, like mm, sometimes they were really basic questions, sometimes they were questions that didn't have anything to do with the topic, or some philosophical questions or just opinions, but uh, it was like really uh, interrupting like the flow of the class, just because one guy needed to have an answer and didn't want to wait for the professor to go
Yeah.
more in depth. And uh, you're just unlucky like that. You can get like disruptive classmates. You can get that. And I'm not trying to imply that asking questions like will slow down your learning process. Like there are a lot of good questions that can really enrich the class, but sometimes if the professor doesn't have like a good grip on the class, like, and you let one guy ask a question like every 5 minutes, then you won't get too much done that class. And for us, like having bought that course, we could go at our own pace. And uh, even if you don't understand the topic, then you can rewatch it, or you can take it slow, because you at least like I don't know, the best case use case scenario for me for the university was, or for college, is to put a stress test on all my learning system. Like I'm going through so much courses that I won't need, but I need a way to remember stuff. I need a way for passing exams, and like trying to polish my note taking techniques. Like at first, like I used to just copy whatever was in the whiteboard, right, on the or the blackboard that wasn't uh, in the front. But uh, sometimes it was too much information, and not everything worked. So uh, you, I needed to find another way. So let's just write the keywords, and that should trigger some memory of some type, so I can look uh, more specific. But if the topic is I consider it to be really important, like I can write more keywords about it. And everyone has their style. Not every style work for everyone. You just need to have that experience and know yourself. So at least for that, it was useful. But you get really tired of it eventually. Like, yeah, I'm wasting my money here. What am I doing? Why am I taking this
You,
class?
you just remind me, there was one guy that was asking something to the teacher and he couldn't have an answer. And then he screamed, "Come on, dude, I'm paying 1,500." Like,
Oh man.
it was like, come on, dude, it's 1,000.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about the importance of the quality of the teachers.
Yeah.
um, because
But
yeah, tell me.
I mean, it's very expensive. It's just very expensive to have this service.
So yeah, it's important also to know uh, if the teacher can teach, because they could be like professionals in the industry, but if they don't know how to communicate like their knowledge, then it gets really hard to learn something from them. I mean, you can copy and paste whatever they're doing, but when you get an assignment to do something like a little bit different, it isn't the same, because they're not teaching you the process, like the thought process behind, or the ideas behind the stuff that they are doing. Like for example, now you're not explaining exactly what you're doing, and uh, even though I have been watching you do like select a part of the body and extract it, extrude it, and like modify it, doesn't mean that I can do it. And there were a lot of classes that were like that, like, oh, watch me code and you will learn. And that's
Yeah.
that doesn't teach me anything, really.
Yeah. Uh, not not all the people who teach at a university are good teachers. Uh, I find I find better teachers like in high school or middle school than in university. Uh, in a way, the subjects that they teach, they are not as hard. They're less technical, so they need to focus more on the methodology and how they teach. So you can have a really nice experience in high school uh, as far as teaching methods. You can learn about a lot about good teachers. Because teaching itself is a skill. It's very hard to do. So just it's not guaranteed because you are a professional in the industry. You are actually qualified to teach. Yes, in a way, you may cover the technical parts, but if no one is understanding you, then It's pointless.
Yep, that's right.
And you can really train this skill. I mean, you can really train the skill of teaching uh, by, I mean, just by teaching, you really get better at it. And it's it's an interesting skill to develop, actually.
Well, you need to like it. There are a lot of teachers that don't like to do it, and they just want to get paid. So they
Mm.
cut a lot of corners. But it's important, like having a goal there, like
Yeah,
especially if it's a uh, like a course with grades. That I don't know about you, but I don't really believe in grades. Like I believe in projects. Like you don't need to pass an exam, uh, something to remember. Like I don't know, uh, you will use this type of algorithm for these cases. I mean, that's that's great and all, but if you don't know how to apply it, then you're really in trouble. And if you can show a project where you are applying it and applying it correctly, it tells me more about what you know and what you don't know about that any exam could do. But if you're taking, you need to take tests, then you really need to know like which parts you are giving more importance. Like there are some teachers like they they take it upon themselves to make like participation a priority, so they start giving extra points for people that participates in class because they consider it to be the most important thing. Uh, they could also give like practical examples, practical uh, quizzes or tests, and because they consider the practical stuff to be more important. But depending on that, they should structure their way of teaching. Like if you're gonna take in account participation, then you should not have a, a class that uh, goes for I don't know 2 3 hours where only the teacher is talking, right? Then uh, they are not being like too much.
right.
They're not making sense in their style of teaching, and there are a lot of teachers that just don't see that part and can be like really frustrating then when they ask you why are you not participating in class. You're not giving time for that, man. But yeah.
Basically, it sucks.
Yeah, it's like having a certification. Like doesn't mean much. I rather prefer to see your portfolio than you showing me that you know how to use I don't know Photoshop, or you have a certification in ZBrush. That I don't know if that even exists, but just show me your portfolio will give me a better idea of what you can do or what you can't.
I don't think there's such thing as ZBrush certificate.
I'm gonna
It
search
would
it.
be very dumb. I mean, it's a very it's a skill that you can actually see if you know it or not how to do it. It's not. But for example, like you're an authorized and realist instructor, uh, and what it basically says is that you can teach. because I know that they, of course, you know the technical stuff, but they consider a lot the teaching methodology. It's just not enough a guy who is super good in Unreal and it's like nobody understands what he's doing. Uh, he just doesn't fit the, you know, the he just can't teach, right? So they focus a lot about how you interact with the students and how you organize yourself, your ideas, and how you teach it. Um, Perhaps the energy, and sure, there is some technical uh, things behind it. Like if you know what you're teaching, I mean that's self-evident. Uh, People will notice when you don't know what you're teaching. Um, so that I think that's a different thing. Uh, in a way, you have proved before that you know how to teach.
Right.
But basically, the question is, if you don't go to college, what is the alternative? Uh, because there are a lot in the first place. Uh, for one, they the money you save not going to college, it's money that can be spent on other things. It can be anything. It can be even online courses. So that's one thing, and you can become really good at it. But basically, actually, uh, after all these years, it's like the most important thing is just be persisting in whatever it is that you're doing. It really doesn't matter what. Like really, it really doesn't matter what. Like you hear these people saying, find something that you can monetize. Uh, I mean, something that you like and you can monetize. It's, uh, I feel like it's a little bit bullshit. Uh, yeah, and the reason is it's been proven over and over and over that whenever you do something for the sake of doing it, regardless of the outcome, there's always an outcome, even if you don't want it. So, like, let's take PewDiePie, for example. Like, do you think he thought about monetizing his abilities back then when he started out? And there's no way. There's no way he planned to be so to have a huge success just by just playing games. And not even an effort. I mean, all the good things in life are effortless. So whatever it is that you're doing, if it's long enough, then it will have a result. Most likely positive if you like to do it. So it's the same with game dev. If you're doing it for many years, there will be a result for sure, sooner or later.
Yeah. It definitely won't be easy. Definitely, you will need to spend time on your craft, right? So if you're gonna spend an incredible amount of time, you at least better like it a little bit.
Yeah, it's like some painters, like they start with the idea that they want to paint really fast, and they have this goal in mind that they need to paint like this person, and they have their challenge like one paint a day, one paint a week, or some. They start applying self-discipline, and it feels forced, and they don't get anywhere. And discipline works. The problem is that uh, I think discipline makes you very unhappy, but it works. So the alternative of discipline. I remember this was in a book I read many years ago. I think it was called The Artist's Way. So if it said like discipline is for soldiers, not for artists. So if you're not going to be disciplined, then what is the answer, right? And she said, a happy artist is a productive artist, and that really close all the questions you have about how to really become great at what you do.
Right.
It's like if you want to be productive, like better be happy doing it. Otherwise, you can force it, but how long? 1 year, 3 years, 10 years? Even if you manage to force it, you're gonna get crazy.
Yeah. It's it's really
Mauricio,
important. Really important
back
to
when you were just studying 3D, was it always like that for you? Like, was it always that like, okay, so I enjoy this, it is easy, it should be effortless. Was it always like that for you?
No, actually, I made all the mistakes I've told you. Uh, I start making 3D with a goal in mind that I need to be good at 3D for whatever reason. Can be to land a job, can be to become famous, can be just to become good. Just the fact that you want to become good at something, that makes it a goal, as stupid as it sounds. And it was very toxic. And for a lot of years, I put myself self-discipline, and it just didn't work. It really didn't work. So, but back then when I decided, like, when you don't have any goal in mind, for example, yeah, okay, like now I'm working in Ubisoft, so I don't need to think about how to become good to make a living, because that's your first priority. You start doing things that you actually enjoy, that you don't do it for money, and you realize those are the things you should have done to make money. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it kind of was the same for me. When I started making characters, I thought I really liked it. Maybe I just like the idea um, of having a custom character made by me or by us. But it was just so hard to study different things. And even so, since you and I started it together, I saw how you were improving so much faster than I. I just didn't um, like couldn't. How do you say it? Hmm. I just couldn't study as much as you. I didn't have the flame for it, even if I force myself, until I found what I really liked. So yeah, I can resonate with what you're saying, for sure.
Yeah, basically you don't need to force it. Like you say, it's very tricky. You think you like something, but deep inside you like another thing, but you don't really want to admit it because that will mean that you will need to start all over again. That will mean that you won't reach the idea that you had in your mind that, oh, I'm gonna be this good making characters, or I'm gonna be this good doing whatever thing. Uh, it's basically a ego attachment, right? It's what the ego will want, not necessarily what you will want.
Yeah, and I wanted to add to the to to what you were saying about, okay, so we're telling you, we're telling the stream, yeah, don't go to college, don't waste money like that. For us it was a really painful experience, but what's the alternative? Like, you have given a good example. What I wanted to add that is that you should manage your time like a lot better, because uh, even though you're not paying for it, that like gives you the false sense of, I'm really not wasting time because I'm not paying for nothing. Maybe you're only using free resources. There are a lot of things on the internet that you can learn for free, and like that can give you a false type of, oh, I'm doing the correct thing here, or oh, that those guys are wasting money but not me. And the way one can manage this type of knowledge is like a portfolio, and this is something I read in the book I have always like t- told you about to you guys, that has,
Pragmatic programmer.
yeah, really changed a lot of how I was seeing my work, the pragmatic programmer. Like, they talk about something called the knowledge portfolio, that you should treat it like, business people treat their portfolio. Like, they gave a lot of tips. For example, serious investors invest regularly as a habit, so they don't stay still, like they are always moving their money. But in the knowledge portfolio, like, this means that you should not be like happy with what you know now. You should regularly like find new stuff to learn, right? Like, maybe you can find stuff in books, you can find stuff um, in videos, but maybe it's not a topic that you're doing right now. Maybe if you're an, I don't know, uh, a game designer, maybe you're not gonna work as a character, I don't know, artist. But if it's a topic that you kind of have interest in, then you at least can search more about it, like how is the process done. You don't really need to go really in depth, but just making that effort to, every week or every day or every 2 days, it really depends on you. But as a habit, learning new stuff, it makes it easier that when you do really need to learn new stuff, maybe, I don't know, Unreal for some reason goes down and we all need to learn how to use Godot, then uh, it will be easier if you are in the habit of learning new stuff. It will be easier to just make the change, not be so much stuck in time. Like, I mean, whatever, if people saw like the Unreal 5 uh, demo and all the good stuff that's coming, and they are not learning Unreal right now, like they are missing out, and they're gonna pay for that like whenever uh, more projects get done with Unreal 5, right? In the same vein, if you see a technology, maybe Houdini, like it's really getting traction in the industry, then at least not having learned something about that, it, it's a really disadvantage, a real disadvantage to whatever you're trying to do. So have being in that habit really helps of learning stuff. Another tip they gave is like diversification is the key to the long-term success. And the same, like maybe you're just, I don't know, currently employed making environments, but that doesn't mean that all your life you will need to research environment, like eat environments, sleep with environments. Like, no, you can also, I believe you learned, started painting, like some 2D art, some illustrations. Even though I'm a programmer, I started learning about animation because that was a topic that really interested me and pulled me. And like the diversifying, that doesn't mean that you will become a master, like a jack of all trades. Like you will know about a lot of stuff, but master of none. But no, that doesn't mean that. That it just means that you're broadening your horizons. You have a clearer view of what you really want to do, and having some extra knowledge, like it, that doesn't hurt anybody. So your time also should be investing in learning new stuff, learning other stuff that maybe doesn't relate too much to what you're doing. And also, with these two tips, like there comes a recommendation, right? Here it says like smart investors know how to balance their portfolios with short-term uh, investments and conservative investments and high risk, high reward investments, right? You can start, for example, if a new technology pops up, you like can consider a risk to learn it, but at the same time, it can pay off at the end if that technology uh, takes off, and you will be like one of the first people who have mastery of that. But at the same time, you can't leave some useful stuff that you know it will be useful for you, and it's important to balance that conservative investments and the high risk high reward investments. Like, don't go too much like, oh, now Marvelous is coming to the gaming industry, I will spend all my time with Marvelous designer to create clothes. Like, yeah, that you could do that, but if you're learning right now, you would probably won't be able to make money from making that because you're still learning, right? So it can pay off in the future, but you need to balance it with what you can do right now. And what were the two more? I had it right here. Ah, yeah. Investors try to buy low and sell high for maximum return. In the knowledge portfolio, this would mean that you need to know which investments would take more time for you to learn, uh, it won't take not much time. So you can spend your time like really efficiently. Like, I don't know, maybe you can take a course that just take like 3 hours, but it will mean that your workflow will be optimized. Then that sounds like a good investment. But if it's a, I don't know, maybe a 6 week course and they cover most of stuff that you have already learned and you're just taking it because one or two classes, then yeah, that doesn't sound like a good investment in the knowledge portfolio, right? And the last one, that every portfolio should be reviewed and rebalanced periodically. People change. Like, whatever you're thinking right now won't be the same as 1 month in the future, like 3 months, 1 year. You will probably be a completely different person with completely different goals. So you should rebalance and check uh, how you're spending your time, how you're spending your learning time, your knowledge part of your day. And if you're just going with the flow, then you need to reevaluate that right now. Like, you should always be trying to be better, and don't compare yourself with anyone else. Like, oh, this guy in my class learns faster than me. Like, no, that doesn't really matter. It's just a comparison between yourself. Like, if you are still in the same place you were, I don't know, a week before, then you are clearly not focusing too much in trying to learn more. So that should be like a good idea, a good indicator to do something different, right? Because something is not working right now for you. But yeah, that was the point that I wanted to add. And I didn't want to
Cool
take too
tips.
much, too long, because I know you don't have that much time. Should be
I know
really
how long we're
late where you are, Mauricio.
I don't know how long we're doing the streaming. No,
There is 1 hour and 22 minutes.
I think we should wrap it up.
Yeah, sounds good. Sounds good. Anything anyone wants to add before leaving? If no,
Yes.
then thank you everyone for coming. It's always a pleasure to hear from you guys, what you're up to. And yeah, you can leave a comment if there is a topic you would like us to discuss, maybe a tutorial, maybe just a talk. But yeah, that would be it for me.
Yep. That's it.
Take care, everyone, and stay safe.